I guess it's finally time. Broken Sword 3. Hopefully we don't all crash. This is my third video in the Broken Sword series. Obviously we're here to talk about Broken Sword the Sleeping Dragon, the third game in the series. But this whole thing started back in 1996 when Revolution Software brought out the classic original story Broken Sword Shadow of the Templars. The next year, it saw the introduction of the Smoking Mirror, where the lead characters of George Stober and Nico Collard went from tracking down Templars to figuring out how to stop a Mesoamerican god from returning to Earth and destroying it. It took 6 years for the next installment to release, and that was the 3D puzzle platformer Broken Sword the Sleeping Dragon. This saw the start of the decline of the series, which, in my opinion, only lasted one game, but it also pushed the game and the genre itself into a new world, trying to capitalize on the ever-growing 3D gaming landscape around it. Did it work? Which of the next 3 games was the one I personally think was the real decline of the series? Did George ever become fun to talk to, both in-game and as a character to talk about? Or is Andre really the pervert we are all led to believe? Well, let's all find out together. Welcome in. I am as always Annakuma, and yeah, we're here for the Sleeping Dragon today. Revolution Software was bringing the adventures of George and Nico into a new dimension with funky 3D models, giant set pieces to explore, and so much box pushing that if you enjoy box pushing, this is 100% the game for you. In fact, you're going to hear me mention box pushing so much, maybe I should start a counter for how many times I say it. Maybe, let's see. It released on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 2 in November of 2003, and as always, was reviewed quite favourably. It was hailed for being an ambitious project, but sadly, even with the game trying to go for the new, more action-adventure fans of games like Tomb Raider, or even film fans of things like Indiana Jones, it still only really found its audience with its already inbuilt audience, and didn't do anything really new or exciting to bring new fans into the series. Broken Sword at this point was a series known for trying to make a film out of a video game. George and Nico were always preset characters with their own unique personalities and motivations, so you were never given a chance to put words into their mouths. The soundtracks, ambient sound, and art direction were always pushing for you to immerse yourself into the worlds and feel like you were on the streets with the characters. They prided themselves in their long dialogue trees, which were all fully voice acted, as well as the fully voice acted reactions to everything around the characters. People had fallen in love with the characters, the settings, and the slow burn mystery surrounding ancient organizations that the characters came face to face with every new installment. Broken Sword the Sleeping Dragon didn't try to change this at all. All it tried to do was make it into a 3D setting and kind of change the genre just a little bit. But what do I mean by that? It still is a point-and-click game at heart, and we're actually back on the heels of the Neo-Templars. You still have that mystery in the background needing to be solved, but they went way more action with this game. Again, I just said it, but it was more Indiana Jones than the Da Vinci Code at this point. Rolf Saxon did return for the voice of George, but we're now on voice actress 3 of 3 for Nico, with Sarah Crook taking over. They originally wanted a French-speaking actress for the role, but that just didn't happen, as it never did. That being said, I have opinions on the voice acting in this game. I have a lot of opinions of things, and you'll just have to stick around to the end to find out more. Or maybe not, I'd probably say halfway through, but I really won't tell you what game I think ruined Broken Sword till the end, so that's still up in the air whether it's this game, the next game, or even the last game so far. Honestly, I completely forgot that I'd even played this as a kid, but I've heard that a few people had troubles with playing this on PlayStation back in the day, and even now the Steam version is very crashy. My first playthrough of it on stream was met with many crashes and resets, but surprisingly my second playthrough on stream had none at all, so it is always worth saving at all points because you really don't want to have to restart a box puzzle after a game crash. So, Broken Sword the Sleeping Dragon, what happens? We start the game off with a traditional cutscene. It is a dark and stormy night. We get a sweeping view of the area, much like the actual bird's eye view we get in the original, and then enter a building full of Templars. Insert the cutscene from them starting to talk to the end of that.
Preceptor.
My lord, it has begun. The power is already building. Are you ready for your task?
We shall not fail you, my lord.
The price of failure is Armageddon. God go with you.
After we get a look at the emblem of the broken sword on the floor, we change scenes to George, who is flying in a plane with this Aussie guy called Harry. He's in the Congo, and they both have a little bit of banter before things go wrong.
Paris, but it didn't work out.
Oh, way to go, mate. I've heard about those French babes. I think she'd be interested in a good-looking Aussie bushman, eh?
Only if it helped her career.
Weather like this, the old crate flies herself.
How about weather like that?
Lucky we got two. Just another couple of seconds and we'll be laughing. You better strap yourself in, George.
Then we get a third and final part of this cutscene, where this stereotypically spotty nerd called Vernon is in his apartment waiting for Nico Collard, just for that to go wrong as well.
And across the world, from Beijing to New York, there are reports of earth tremors, floods, typhoons.
Who is it?
Vernon Blier? It's Nico Collard.
You're early.
You said it was urgent?
We don't have much time. The power sources are building to a peak. It's all in the manuscript. Look, I decoded it. No one's ever done that. They paid me serious money. But the Earth, we're all in danger. Now they want to kill me because I know too much.
As far as the first three opening cutscenes go, this isn't too bad. It sticks to the second game's vibes of giving us a bit of everything going on. I guess it tries to recreate the first game's entire thing of giving us a grasp of the mystery ahead, but like I said in my review for The Smoking Mirror, it lacks any real reason for us to care as players, and kind of any reason for the characters to care either. Well, other than George plummeting to his death. We'll get the popcorn out for that one, and be sad when we realize we aren't replacing George with Harry anytime soon.
Somehow we'd landed in the jungle. And
It sets the scene for the three important things, though. First, we know that the Templars are back. Secondly, we know where George is, I guess. And thirdly, we also know that Nico is being framed for murder. Gameplay starts with George, though, and a soft tutorial that is actually pretty decent for a few reasons. For a start, unlike the vast majority of the game, we're in a very small area. There is only so much we can do, but it introduces how the game will play easily enough. Gone is the cursor movement, and instead you have the buttons down in the right bottom corner that flash with actions when and if there is an action to be taken, and you just press the corresponding button at the right time. This is important because this game did bring in QTEs in cutscenes as well, so you need to be able to keep an eye on that just in case you need to press a button fast. As the game is now all in 3D, there is no way they could make every item that you need to interact with stand out over everything else on the screen, so what they did was implement hotspots at all times. Walking around, you see this little glow flash up, and then you know you can interact with it. We also get the first box moving puzzle. I said you'll get tired of hearing me talk about it, and that is because it kind of becomes the main way to solve anything. George and Nico can both grab, hold, and push heavy objects, and whilst right now it makes sense to balance the plane, a little later on it becomes a crutch of, what can we do in a 3D environment? Let's just push some boxes. Having learned how to interact with the environment, pick things up, and even look in your inventory, because you do have an inventory, even though it isn't as used as much as it could be, you'll be able to come up to the front of the plane and use the beer to revive Harry in the most Australian way possible, and get your first look at how dialogue works. Pretty much the same way as the inventory. It pops up on the side, and you can just ask people about random things. It isn't any different from the original two games, the UI is just a little bit different. That's it. You still just have pictures of things to talk about, and the outcomes of the conversations are all set in stone. There aren't any branching paths in this, like George being able to say he is or isn't a doctor in the first game, or ask Ubier about his wife or whether he killed her in the second, but it doesn't really need it in this one either. Before we go on, I feel it's safe to say these models actually look really great as well. George has never looked better, and whilst there are some moments later on that are kinda goofy, as a lot of 3D stuff in this time period was, I think overall the game looks amazing. It has some problems we'll get to later, but at least for this part of the game, especially this part of the game, it just looks great. With Harry awake, you can move him to the back of the plane to help you get out through the front window. One miscommunication later though, and Harry is climbing out after us and we both fall to our doom.
Harry, stay there!
Whoa!
Or at least this puzzle here. Again, this is another tutorial in itself. Nothing else you'll do will be this heavy on movement-based puzzles, but this is a good place to show you what you can do with this new 3D world. Somehow, you both do survive this fall and end up here. Harry decides to find his own way out, and George heads upwards. This introduces us to our jumping, hanging, shimmying, and whatever else you can do prompts. You can't jump on command, it is a reaction-based jump. You'll get to the edge of anything you can jump off of, dangle from, or climb up to, and the button will pop up letting you know you can press it to move on. Honestly, this movement is one of the best parts of the game. It isn't super overused for the majority of the gameplay, but it does get you into the action-adventure mind frame as well. Not that George was ever the bookish main hero, but the simplicity of the 2D George is now completely gone, and we can be the hero I guess they always imagined him to be. This opening area for George is genuinely well crafted to let you know how the game will handle, how to play it, and what to expect when it comes to the dialogue and story. All three really are just a mixed bag, sadly. You can forgive the handling and playing of the game being a bit janky and rough. Again, a lot of 3D games in this time period were known for being rather janky, and that honestly often raised the love for them in their respective communities, especially through time. You do get stealth sections in the game, and they did introduce stealth-like mechanics, and not just force you into trying to stealth with normal walking mechanics and stuff. Thought was put into everything they did, but it was poorly executed to a point. Everything was forgivable for a first attempt, and nothing ruins the playthrough of the game, though. Story-wise and dialogue-wise, there isn't really any excuse for the up and down nature of what happens through the game, but we'll get to my quibbles as they arrive. Right now, you just need to get to this opening to end the tutorial and get a little more story. This is Cholmondeley, the scientist that George was here to see. Why? Well, George is actually a patent lawyer. It is why he knows Latin and was so helpful in the first game with the Latin on the manuscripts. He is here to oversee the signing of a patent. Sadly, Cholmondeley was found first by the Skeletor-looking guy. All we get is that this guy is looking for someone and the scientist doesn't know where he is. I guess this does lead me to my first quibble with the writing. Nothing is taken too seriously. Cholmondeley's final words are,
How many times? It's not Cholmondeley, it's...
and while she might at first think it's because this guy might not be the correct man or something like that, it's not the case. We find out much later that actually he just doesn't like that everyone pronounces his name wrong. It is a little humorous, and it isn't like Broken Sword was never funny, but it is a moment that I really feel should have been a little more serious. This is a character we know nothing about, and a cold-blooded murder in front of George's eyes, and what we got was a man not even really aware he was gonna die, because that would ruin the joke of him not liking his name pronounced this way. I will personally continue to pronounce it wrong, because I would do the very British thing of saying it exactly as it is spelled, or how I spell it, because I'm sure I've spelled it wrong in the script. We don't really need to talk about him much anymore anyway, but I will continue to say it wrong. After the gunshots, we go to Nico. Yes, like in the Smoking Mirror, Nico is a playable character in the Sleeping Dragon. Unlike the Smoking Mirror, and I guess the director's cut of Shadow of the Templars, Nico actually has a purpose too, and she has quite a lot of screen time. Her side of the story has a purpose, and she's actually an important part of the story. He also does have cake for days, which makes all the men who love dominant French women very happy, I'm sure. Nico arrives at the apartment of Vernon, the nerd we saw in the intro. She arrives just in time to hear gunshots, but can't get in. Again, this is very nicely done. Small area with a puzzle that is easy enough to solve. You need to go out onto the balconies and use the guttering to climb over to the balcony with the open door. Yes, even Nico gets to move blocks, but this is, I think, the only block in the whole game that doesn't look like a block, which is sad. Everything else just looks like a crate or a block. Also, there is some great dramatic music playing as she does all this. When inside, first notice that this guy has legitimately got a poster of the box art for Shadow of the Templars up on the wall. A nice nod for fans to see, and just a beautiful bit of art in itself. There isn't much to do in the bedroom, but you can look around the room if you want. Like all Broken Sword games, every bit of dialogue or thought the characters have are voice acted, so it's worth looking around and hearing the disgust that Nico has with the bedroom of this nerd. When we leave through here, we have quibble number 2. Both Nico and George are very cold in this game. George did seem to react normally to the shooting of the scientist, but Nico just very calmly realizes there is a dead body and gets over it. In fact, she has this little line that she utters.
He must have been dead before he hit the ground, which ruled out CPR, thank God. I didn't fancy going mouth to mouth with that acne and those teeth.
Which, I don't blame her, but I don't blame her because I don't like germs. I wouldn't want to do CPR on anyone, and whilst I would say some thoughts are best left unsaid, I guess she didn't really say this one out loud herself. I would also question if this is just how the French see dead bodies, but by that time, yeah, you wouldn't want to do CPR because they're dead anyway. I'm guessing it's just she doesn't want to give CPR to a spotty nerd. No pretty French dominant female would ever be seen dead giving CPR to a dying nerd. So, all the nerds out there that love Nico don't need CPR in front of sexy French women. They will judge you for being a nerd and let you die. Stepping into the kitchen, we'll see the new mechanic, the QTEs, everyone's favorite type of gameplay. During some cutscenes, you'll find that your little wheel in the bottom right will flash up with instructions. These are actually very easy to miss the timing of, as they are very fast and happen without much warning. If you miss them, you will end up dying. Quite often at the gun of this lady, who just follows you around and tries to shoot you a lot. Unlike previous games though, when you die, you don't have to restart at a save point. Instead, you just redo the scene you were on, which makes it easier to deal with. Saving is easy to do anyway, and you should save because of crashes. You just press start and you have a pretty normal menu for console-type games. Our assassin friend here for some reason hates Nico, which is why she's very happy to come face to face with her to kill her. We don't get a reason why right now, and as long as you hit all the buttons correctly, you will have her running out the back door, down a fire escape, down an alleyway, and into her car and drive away before Nico can even go out the back door. Like, seriously. This woman basically teleports to a car and leaves before you can actually get outside. This is another quibble. Not a big one, but one I will mention. Much of the Sleeping Dragon is done in the rule of cool. It plays out like a proper action movie, so silly things will happen and make very little sense. In reality, Nico would have probably seen the lady run away. Even if she jumped down the building somehow, Nico would still have been able to see her run away, and would still take her time to get into the car and speed off. There are two reasons this is a quibble. First up, Broken Sword never really did much like this. There were moments that were more cinematic, but they always had some sense to them. It doesn't ruin anything having it like this, but this time out, the reason it is a quibble for this specific moment is that nothing that follows makes sense because of it. Because what happens next with Nico is that you go out onto the street to try to find out anything about the assassin that just ran away. Problem is, whilst the world continues to be very lived in, like all Broken Sword games, none of these people are helpful. It is a case of having to walk around and talk to 4 people out on the street to find out small bits of information, as well as searching around for any items you can find. You'll find a wig learning that the assassin wasn't actually a brunette, but just asking people about her isn't gonna help, even though it happened seconds before we talk to them. As you don't know the hair color, no one will tell you about the car, you just heard screeching away, or if they noticed a woman on this pretty empty street running away into a car that screeched away. Though I do love this interaction with Beatrice.
The woman I'm after is really a blonde.
No? I don't think so.
That being said, Beatrice here won't actually talk to you unless you go back into the apartment and listen to the voicemails.
Vernon, it's Beatrice. Good luck with the reporter. I'll be waiting for you in the gardens afterwards. Love you, Snooky.
Snooky?
You'll find out that she's actually Vernon's girlfriend, meaning that whilst Nico might not have given Vernon CPR, he at least lucked out with the big titty goth girlfriend. You can tell her that Vernon is dead and she'll leave. This guy and this lady will give you tidbits of information, but you basically need to find out from him what the car type is so that you can talk to the traffic cop who will tell you the number plate. Even though it's like having to know the specific make of the car instead of being that car that literally just sped off 2 seconds ago being enough of information for her. With the information you need found, the police will instantly pull up, having been called for the gunshots, which makes sense, and they'll take you back to Vernon's place to question you as you fit the description of the killer, obviously because she was dressed like you.
We are questioning everyone in the area.
What is your name?
Nicole Collard.
It's her, alright. Please come with us.
This is where we will talk about the voice acting. Our police friend here is no Russell or Mew. Sometimes he genuinely sounds like the voice actor just didn't want to come in that day. In fact, most of the scenes in France just feel like an episode of Allo Alone. We both have to try to convince this guy that we haven't done anything wrong, whilst at the same time try to get some information of our own from him. This woman here is absolutely certain she saw you, and in the end, the police do take you away for actual questioning. Why they took you into the building first, I don't know, but you do get taken away, and as Nico was taken away, we're back with George. So, our scientist friend here didn't actually die straight away, so his final words aren't actually quite as silly as they first seemed. Instead, this is the final conversation, and sadly, it is with George.
Can you hear me? Can you speak? Who are you?
Chum.
Yeah?
Chum.
That's okay. I'm your chum.
Danger.
What?
The world is in danger. Susaro.
Who's Susaro? Just a few more seconds and he could have told me so much. Poor guy.
We do get the name Cesaro, which is a skeleton-looking man here, and I will possibly say his name wrong quite often, because there's a wrestler called Cesaro, and that's what's in my head now, but we'll see. George will pick the pocket of the dead man after he finally dies, and then decide to find a way to get out of here. Now the basic loop of gameplay starts. There are a few things you have to do, but mainly it will be box pushing. This box will be pushed on this switch to open this door. You can then break the lever off this machine, which I'm guessing is the one that we were here to patent, but, you know, the guy's dead and now we've broken it.
Whoa!
You then open the door completely by using the lever here just to push the block over here to get up to this area. Block pushing is what we're going to be talking about a lot today. Now, we do have a weird puzzle here. When we finally get outside, Cesaro and his men are still there, so George decides that the important thing for him to do is to distract them. But he decides to distract them with this statue that he's literally stood right next to. So he starts a fire to distract the bad guys by making them look at exactly where he's standing. The problems. We don't know where we are. George doesn't know if he has anywhere to go because we don't know where we are. George doesn't even know if he has a way to escape. And of course the main problem was stood right here in the middle of daylight, putting the focus on us by setting a fire right next to ourselves. George was never one to be smart about any situation he's in, but because he is the main protagonist, things just work out. How? Because somehow Harry also found his way off of this climbing frame thing that we fell onto, and he found a random Jeep as well, which I'm guessing he's just stolen, and then he's parked it right in eyesight of the bad guys in front of the place he didn't really know about, just when we need him to help us escape. Again, rule of cool, and we're running, we're weaving, we're escaping. But where to?
Kill them! Come on, Harry. We gotta get out of here. Fly ahead, go, go, go!
As the lunatic Aussie saved my life, I was certain of one thing. I wasn't going back to the office in Idaho. I'd had my fill of patents. Nope, I was going to England to find the mysterious Bruno.
Well, in the cave there was actually a postcard from Bruno in Glastonbury, so George decides that the best place to go looking for answers is in Glastonbury, to find a random guy called Bruno, and Glastonbury is exactly where we're gonna go. Now, one thing about Broken Sword is that it is both actually pretty well designed as well as being pretty badly designed. I love the game a lot, and Glastonbury doesn't look awful, but at the same time, it just looks super open, super empty, and kind of soulless, especially the skybox when you're looking towards the tour. It does have some funny characters in the game. None of them will stand the test of time though, like some of the characters in other games, but they're decent enough for one game. What I do really love is that Lady P is here, in spirit, with her family. You have this colonel marching up and down the street. You'll find out that he's looking for his daughter who went to Glasgow and told him she's never coming back. Then you have this Irish guy, Eamon, who's looking for places to film his new TV show on the BBC. You also have a fortune teller and this guy, Tristan, in this hippie shop. No one is going to be much help, as they never are in any game ever. You have to constantly walk around talking to each individual and picking up small tidbits. Bruno might or might not have been staying with Tristan, but he won't tell you anything. So if you pick up his book and read it, you'll be impressed with how well written his poetry is. Just when you then take that book to Eamon, he recognizes that the book has been plagiarized and will go and start a fight with Tristan.
The grave-robbing little toe rag. I'll have him.
Good morrow, fair traveller. How may I help you?
To the island valley of Avilion, where falls not hail, or rain, or any snow, nor ever wind blows loudly, but it lies.
I beg your pardon?
Deep meadowed, happy fair, with orchard lawns and bowery hollows, crowned with summer sea.
That's good. That's very good.
Of course it's good. It's Tennyson, you tofu-chewing twit. From his Mort to Arthur. Not the Thomas Mallory one, but we won't hold that against him. Now, do you recall King Mark of Cornwall in that tale?
I've read Mallory, yes, but,
You'll recall Mark has a big downer on a knight called Tristram then. 'Cause Tristram took something that didn't belong to him.
Oh, God! You mean Melissa? Look, I can explain.
No, not Melissa, you Aegis. Isolde!
Now you've completely lost me.
When Eamon is busy, you can go upstairs and meet the niece of Lady P herself, Melissa, which basically means that this guy out here is the brother of Lady P. And yes, Melissa is basically a young and not quite as larger-than-life version of her aunt. I said aunt, that's very posh of me. I usually just say aunt. I always love how small the world of Broken Sword is. Like, genuinely, I love it. If I love them running into Dwayne and Pearl, whose spoilers sadly aren't in this game, then I can't be too upset about them running into relatives of other people, especially when you are at least in the right country to do so. Lady P being English and them being in England. Dwayne and Pearl just show up randomly all the time, and I'm always happy to see them. So being in England and having a throwback to Lady P, it makes sense. Broken Sword managing to explore the world whilst also keeping it in such a small world around George is one of my favorite things the series has to offer. It's a tiny little social bubble, but it's one you grow to love. So when people like Pearl and Dwayne aren't in a game like they aren't in this one, you kind of miss them. Now knowing that Melissa is upstairs, you can head back down and threaten Tristan to find out that Bruno was here and gives you some underpants.
Did he leave anything behind?
He was in a hurry. He just grabbed his pathetic belongings, threw them in his bag, and off he went.
He must have left something.
Nothing worth looking at, believe me.
Letters, notes, a phone number?
No. He took everything with him. Only...
Aha! So he did leave something.
Well, yes. But what good is an old pair of pants to you?
Pants? Give them to me.
Melissa is also upset with Tristan anyway. That will all resolve itself later. With Bruno's pants in hand, you can head back to the fortune teller because, of course, George has to have pants. This is now just a thing, apparently. George just walks around with pants in his hand. After you've given her some money, like most point-and-click games, maybe for the first time in her life, she has a real premonition.
Oh, no!
What? What can you see?
Dragon fire! No. A man and the dragon seek his death. He only has minutes to live.
Basically, Bruno is still there. He's just in a burning fire thing, and when you walk outside, you'll see that the pub is on fire, or at least something in the back is on fire. Eamon is just sitting there and doesn't even notice anything because he wants to get drunk at 10 AM, but he will help you break into the back when you actually inform him that actually there is a fire right behind him. What I really love in this weird way is how calmly George and Eamon depart.
Excellent. Thanks, Eamon.
No trouble. Just sorry there wasn't a camera crew around to catch me being heroic.
I can take it from here.
Sure, I'll call the fire brigade. Then I'm going to sort out that bloody thieving hippie.
This is a major quibble that the voice acting just doesn't feel as natural as it did in the first 2 games. Things just kind of happen for no reason. This isn't even the rule of call at this point. This is just randomly scripted words for no reason. Conversations just don't flow and can lead to unintentionally wonky interactions that kind of don't fit in with whatever else is happening at any given time. They've literally just broken down a door to get through because something's on fire and George thinks someone's stuck there. And then they have this conversation like nothing just happened. It's so strange. It takes you out of the game, and that's the big problem with the dialogue. It often ruins the immersion. When we get to the other side of the pub, we'll find this barn is on fire and see someone in a robe walking away. We know someone is in the barn, hopefully Bruno, so a few box pushes later and you'll be in the barn helping out that somebody, who, as I said, is Bruno. Yes, Bruno turns out to actually be the professor from the Hotel Ubu from the first game. Actually, funnily enough, before I made this video, I got the Shadow of the Templar collector's box, including this really cool art book, which tells us that Bruno was actually from Latvia. I don't know if we knew that beforehand, but I just wanted a way to show off some of the art book because it's really, really cool. If you don't remember, Bruno was one of the Neo-Templars. He's left the Order now and is trying his best with Tremondley to stop Cesaro. He'll tell us everything he knows, and this is the first real lore dump for the game. It isn't much because he doesn't really know everything going on, with him not being in the Order anymore, but he gives us some interesting enough bits of information to keep us going. So, the Neo-Templars are back in a group called the Dragon Cult, and they are trying to tap into the ley lines of the world to conjure up the energy that runs in them. That is the machine that Tremondley had, and that is what Bruno is trying to stop. I love how lively this scene is, though. As we talk to Bruno, the Colonel will walk by, George will then stop him to ask him if he's okay, and he'll tell George he's gonna get Purdy. When you finish talking to Bruno, the Colonel will walk by again, and when the scene is all over, you'll find George running to the hippie store to watch as Tristan gets into another argument, this time with the Colonel.
Stick my little liss here, would you? I'm going to kill you, you blighter!
Violence isn't the answer.
Yes, it bloody is!
Ow! Oh! Oh! Not the face! Not the face!
Daddy! No!
Trouble?
Oh, just another wild party. I don't think we should gate crash.
Back with Nico though, and she is raging, and for good reason. We get a bit of a look at the timeline here, learning she's been locked up for 2 days now. I love how she answers her phone as well.
Yes? Alcatraz. Who do you wish to talk to?
Nico? Candice? Where have you been?
Staying with friends.
Then, we actually get a chance to look around Nico's iconic apartment. There isn't anything important in the apartment, but it is nice to finally get to look around it. In fact, here, have some more pictures from the art book of Nico's apartment from the art book, because I like the art book, and have a look at it. The first 2 games being 2D meant that some areas you didn't get to snoop around as much as you kind of wanted to. It is only the first game that you go to Nico's apartment, and George always walks in, or sat down, and walked out again, so you never got to look around her apartment or interact with anything, so it's nice to finally just walk around and see how Nico lives. That being said, mainly right now you'll be returning to the scene of the crime, because of course you will. The neighbor who called the police and the lady who was outside that day are both just standing out here talking about what happened 2 days prior, because this lady apparently never moves from this exact spot, but they just so happen to not be able to talk about this whole thing until 2 nights later when, coincidentally, Nico walks by. There are many, many ways that they could have done this, but it is another just random event that just sticks out in this game because of how well the other 2 games were crafted with moments like this. They really thought out moments in the first 2 games, and I don't feel like they vernoned in this game. Vernon's neighbor will storm off because she still thinks we're the murderer, which is fair. She only saw the back of the assassin's head, and we apparently look exactly the same. But the lady on the street will tell you this.
Something she overheard Vernon say.
Go on. It could be important.
He said the power was building up. And he mentioned a manuscript. I don't know if that helps.
It might. Thanks.
Now, you won't be able to get through Vernon's front door because obviously the front door is still locked. You will not be able to go out on the balcony either because that's locked. So you'll have to head to the fire escape in the back and do the old paper under the door trick to get the key in the back door out and open the way back into the apartment. Just Beatrice is in here this time.
The poor thing looked as though she'd been crying for days. Excuse me, Beatrice.
Why have you come here? Didn't the police arrest you?
They released me. I didn't kill Vernon, but I saw the woman who did.
What do you want with me?
I want to help.
Go away!
She won't talk to you at first, but if you show her some kindness, she'll tell you about this manuscript that Vernon was working on translating. Vernon had known he was in danger, so had been trying to keep Beatrice from the apartment, which is why she was sat in the garden. This all happened about 6 months prior, and the manuscript was apparently online for everyone to see, just Vernon was the only person to ever figure it out. She'll also give you her birthday. Now, one of the problems you have in this game, honestly, is that you can find things in the game and get stuck on what to do with it, when in the end, it's a puzzle for another time. This safe is a good example of that, as you can find it the first time you're in the apartment, wandering around, looking at numbers and trying to open it, but you don't actually get to open it until now because you need to have Beatrice's birthday. Because, as you can guess, the password for the safe is her birthday. Very romantic password. Inside, you'll find a DVD and a diagram that make no sense to you. It's just some wiggly lines on a bit of paper. You can't actually watch the DVD here because there's nowhere to watch it, so you'll head back to Nichols and get pretty much the entire plot summed up in one by Vernon.
If you are watching this, Mouse, then, well, you know what's happened. The whole world is in danger, Beatrice. The manuscript those people paid me to decode had a secret. A deadly secret. Though I didn't know it at the time. You know all those earthquakes and the crazy weather I've been going on about? They were predicted in the manuscript. Turns out it's quite famous. Called the Voynich manuscript. People have been trying to crack it for years, and I beat them to it. Me, Vernon Blier. I haven't decoded everything, but what I've seen is enough. It talks of a power so great, it could destroy the whole of mankind. It flows continually around the earth along routes known as ley lines. The Chinese call them dragon lines. You know, an ancient civilization even learned how to use this energy, and it brought them great power. They became greedy. They lost control. The power surged. It almost destroyed the world. Beatrice, the people who paid me want to harness this power. And if they do, it is the end of the world. For real! You'll find a diagram with this. It's important, but I haven't worked out why yet. Two things I know are very important. Something called the Key of Solomon, and the strange phrase, devils and witches dance with cows on the Sabbath. The more I work on the manuscript, the more confused I become, and the more I fear for my life. Whatever happens, Mouse, I love you.
Also, I guess I should point out that we do survive being run over as we leave the apartment by the car because that's just there randomly as well. Now, I haven't really been talking about the plot so far in the game, and there is a good reason. Broken Sword Shadow of the Templar was a slow burn mystery point and click that started with a very personal reason for George to be going after a killer that was dressed as a clown. As you went along the journey, you found out stories of the Knights Templar, their history and meaning, before uncovering secret sects of the Templars still plotting to this day. Broken Sword The Smoking Mirror didn't give you a personal reason to care for the plot, but it did at least give George the reason of following the lead because Nico had been kidnapped at the beginning of the game. It was part of a story she was running, and again the story kinda slow burnt to learn of a group of people trying to resurrect a god. Broken Sword The Sleeping Dragon is none of these things. It isn't a slow burn mystery where you uncover a hidden plot. It is more action-based, and therefore it does what a lot of good action films do, and just has one big set piece followed by another big set piece, with lore kind of just dropped on you randomly here and there. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't a bad thing. The change can be annoying to some as they like the mystery aspect, and to a point they do try to keep the mystery going. In a way, it's just the worst of both Shadow of the Templars and the Smoking Mirror. They tried to make George's involvement personal by having him see the killer do the killing, but he just wanders from point A to point B, hoping for the best, which he didn't really ever do in any of the other games. Nico at least is still writing a story and was framed for the murder of this guy, but then her indifference at times to what is going on makes it hard for you to also care about her side of the story. Bruno's information in this DVD are basically the only real lore you get until much later on. And even then, the lore you get later on just kind of is this, but a little bit different. But let's get back to history nerd time, because I know you like when I go history nerd. Vernon tells us that this is the Voynich manuscript that he deciphered, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is a very real, very weird manuscript. Dated to the early 15th century, it is a 240-page long manuscript that no one has ever been able to decipher. It has some Latin on it, but the rest of the book is indecipherable. Some of the pages are missing, some fold out into bigger pieces, and most are illustrated. In fact, because the book can't be translated at all, people often refer to pages and parts of the book via what the illustrations on them look like. For example, 126 pages are marked as being herbal, 17 as astrological or astronomy based, and at least 16 seem to be about drugs, or you know, herbs and the such. 28 pages are thought to be missing, and only 8 of the pages in the entire thing are text-based only. No one knows what the manuscript is about. Even top code breakers in both World War I and World War II have tried to crack it, but to this day it has never been deciphered. It could just be a diary. Or, like in Broken Sword, the Sleeping Dragon, I guess, it could be more like Nostradamus' prophecies. Vernon explains that the manuscript has predicted the earthquakes and so on that's been happening randomly in the world right now. It apparently describes the ley lines, or Chinese dragon lines, and how they are full of great energy that grants great power to those that abuse it. So much so that it could destroy the world. So I guess think of Final Fantasy VII if you want. Again, these are real things. Broken Sword do take a lot of things that are real and sometimes bend them to make the story sound more romanticized. Dragon lines are known as dragon veins in reality, and they are known to be full of power, and destroying them would lead to extremely negative consequences for the world. Ley lines are also a real thing that ancient civilizations believed in and would often build things on top of them. Vernon then tells us of two important things, the Key of Solomon and the phrase,
"Devils and witches dance with cows on the Sabbath."
Nico is happy to finally have a big scoop, and because we're talking Templars, Nico also knows exactly who to call. So, welcome back, Andre.
We have to assume it is Andre.
In fact, you can call him anytime you are close to a phone. It turns out that Nico and George once again aren't talking, as George is based back in Idaho, something you pick up on later in the game, so she'll still be very close to Andre, even if he hasn't made it past just being her friend. That being said, the only reason Andre is in the game in the first place is because he is a historian with specialized knowledge of the Templars, so who better to bring in to help us? Sadly, he isn't any real help, or he kind of is. Again, it shows the walk away from this very heavy lore-inspired mystery to just getting things done as quickly as possible to get to more action scenes. It isn't that Andre gets to show off his skills like he used to, but he talks about the Key of Solomon being a book, which it is, before helping Nico figure out that the phrase is about the Ile de Saint Louis, which used to be called Cow Island and was very famous for apparently having witches dancing there. For reference, it's a real place and one of the two natural islands in the Seine River, the other one being the home to Notre Dame. The only other clue that Nico has is something to do with theaters, so she calls up the paper and asks if they have any clue what could link the two, and she finds out there is a condemned theater on the island, so she now has a destination to go to. It isn't as clever as the first two games, but it gets the job done. Before she leaves, her editor calls her back and she quits her job as he warns her to give up on the story, and now with her jobless, Andre quips,
"You know, I feel better for that.
There's just the question of how you'll pay the bills and eat.
Something will come up."
You sound like your friend, Georges.
Which she pretty much just ignores and leaves. This time, we don't go straight back to George. We as Nico go straight to the theater, and this was actually a part of the game that stumped me for the longest time in my first stream playthrough of this. The 3D gameplay isn't bad, but it is janky, which is to be expected. As movement like jumping and grabbing things are reaction-based, it is easy to miss certain hotspots in massive areas that will allow you to grab onto ledges or move about freely. In this area, for example, as the theater is closed and locked up, you need to get onto the scaffolding on the building on the other side. You do need to walk around the side of the building and find the car that the assassin's been using, but mainly you are just here to climb up the side of the other building to get to the roof of the theater and get about your business. That being said, you jump onto it from here, and the first time I played it, I managed to miss this for about an hour. I might have had to even Google what I was missing because I just did not see where I was meant to go or what I was meant to be doing. Like everything in The Sleeping Dragon, it isn't the worst thing you could possibly imagine, and therefore it never ruins the game or makes it less enjoyable. It will give you temporary pause in gameplay as you try to figure out where you've gone wrong, but the first time you miss a hotspot like this and realize that sometimes the game is just finicky, then you are much likely to approach the rest of the game with some care given to ledges and what might look important. At this point in the game as well, I feel the world design just stops being good. Whilst the alleyway itself really isn't one of the problem areas, most areas from now on seem to be too big. Whether it's just wide empty spaces that can pull your attention away from what you're meant to be doing because you aren't sure where you're actually meant to be looking, to a lot of maze-like long empty corridors. It is one massive problem with going from 2D to 3D, and that you no longer could just transition from one small area to the next. Now George and Nico have to move around it all on their own. To a point, it was meant to just look real. If you walk into a back alley, it's going to be more than just a tiny bit of a side street. But as you go on, it just ends up filling the game with running around that just doesn't need to happen. Right here and now, though, what needs to happen is this sign on the scaffolding being untied on both the bottom end and top end to make a makeshift bridge onto the roof of the theater where Nico can enter.
Success. I was risking death with every step, but so what? I felt like I was under a death sentence already.
Inside the theater, Nico will sneak around as she hears people coming. Through the front door, I guess? It is, of course, Cesaro and Petra, the assassin, as well as Flap from the first game, because yes, Flap is back.
I shall miss Paris, my dear. It has been charming, has it not?
I shall never forget it.
But the city is becoming unstable, and we have no need of this space.
Cesaro tells everyone that they have no need of this space anymore and will be heading out soon, and Nico, who is hiding behind a counter, accidentally crunches up a popcorn pot and gets caught by Flap.
Yo!
It seems that we have a visitor.
Is this the right place for the audition? You again.
Aha, so this is the girl. Petra, my dear, you must introduce us.
Nico Collard? Senor Cesaro.
We have never met, and yet our lives have crossed.
For the worst.
In your case, that will certainly be true. Flap!
Which also now means we do go back to George, who is also now in Paris with Bruno, and this little strange contraption that I'm guessing is helping them find ley lines. This is by far one of the weakest parts of the game. Not necessarily the worst, because Prague is still to come, but weak in comparison to everything around it. And that is because it suffers from what I mentioned a moment ago, a giant area to explore, but it boils down to block pushing. You need to push a block to get up onto the dumpster to get into this building. This building has a lot of things to look at, maybe a few things to pick up, but mainly all you're doing is going from one room to another to push more boxes. This area is massive though and has many hotspots because you can read all the books on the shelves, and usually I'm all for it, but it adds to a bigger problem Broken Sword 3 has, which is that it never feels obvious what you are meant to be doing. I don't mean that it should be easy, Broken Sword never was, but often you can get lost in something completely irrelevant because it is the one thing that stands out in a room just to find out that the tiny hotspot hidden away in the back was what you were actually going for, and feeling like you wasted a lot of time looking at 100 books that were unimportant. Like, reading these books is fine. It's a point-and-click staple to give us a library-type area and let the protagonist read out titles. People use it now to name out Kickstarters or supporters. How a much newer game that came out just a month ago, Shadows of the Afterland, uses it to shout out different point-and-click games that are coming out, or are already out. But whilst this room in particular is fine, it is a growing problem in the game because of just how large areas can be and how much they wanted them to feel alive by having George and Nico be able to interact with just way too many items. Plus, the Sleeping Dragon just does not get the balance between random box-pushing puzzles and any other kind of puzzle right at all. I am a 3D human myself. I know it's hard to believe behind my 2D persona, but I don't think I've ever moved as many boxes as George does in this game, and I've worked in a warehouse with flat-packed furniture. It feels unimaginative just to have this entire game turn into what box can George push now, instead of giving us the tightly crafted inventory puzzles the game had become known for. When all of the boxes have been pushed, George will end up in the back of the theater himself, just in time for the show. He even picks up some stale popcorn and watches.
It was some kind of a rehearsal. As a one-time director of the Idaho Players, I was no stranger to the thespian arts.
Where is it? We must have the location.
I tell you, I don't know.
Ah!
Let me do this properly. I know I can break her.
As you wish, Petra.
I'm not scared of you, you bunch of thugs.
Bravo! Ooh!
Thing is, this room isn't dark enough that someone walking in and sitting at the back of it isn't going to be noticed. We know he isn't thinking the things he says because his mouth is opening. I'm questioning this because I could be wrong, but I very much remember him looking like he was talking and being loud. Yet even with Flap looking out at the crowd in front of him, no one ever sees George, and we're just meant to believe that he's sneaky enough and the lights on stage are blinding enough that someone moving around and making quite a bit of noise is going to be ignored in this old, condemned and empty theater. You know, the theater where one crunch of a popcorn bin alerts the goons, but someone legit being loud in the back and spitting out popcorn he's put in his mouth that is like 5+ years old is way too far away to have any notice on anyone ever. The puzzle is pretty easy at first, but can once again be impacted by just how many places you can go. All you need to actually do is sneak into the wings at the side and up the scaffolding to drop the sandbags on the top of Flap.
I knew this would get his attention. Gotcha now.
But you can actually wander around a bit in here at the moment, and it's kind of pointless to do so. With Flap out of the way, we're reunited once more with Nickel though.
Tied to a chair, needing to be rescued. Again.
George! Don't just stand there. Untie me!
You know, this is becoming a habit. Maybe you should seek help. Okay.
Come on! Hurry!
Jeez, these knots are tight. Aha! Got it. Seriously, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. And it is good to see you. Your timing's perfect.
Nickel lets you know as much as she can, and we're surprised that we just so happen to be on the same case. But it is time to move on because the Sleeping Dragon doesn't wait for emotional reunions. Not that this one was very emotional, it was more comedic. In fact, whilst the will they won't they relationship playfulness of George and Nickel still survives, this game in particular is much lighter on it, and often the two of them have more of a sibling or best friend vibe going on. They rarely if ever take anything too seriously, and even later in some quite important cutscenes, will just quip away at bad guys and give each other rather funny looks. Of course, and I had to find a way to insert my favorite clip in, this is still to come soon.
I don't believe it. It's a picture of Anna Maria, dressed as a nun.
Cute nun.
Very cute.
So what's the deal?
This nun is Anna Maria.
No way.
Yes way, very way, in a big way.
Whoa! You've been dating a nun, George. A nun!
Well, she wasn't wearing all that gear when I met her.
In some countries, they execute you for that, George.
Well, maybe she's not a real nun. Maybe she's at a costume party.
Yeah, and those goons who attacked you in New York were the 7 dwarves.
So this very much is the first time the space gets to be a big problem. The theater has many different areas, a lot of different rooms, all are kind of needed for the puzzle, but you have the massive upstairs area, and then this whole new underground stage area. There's just long corridors and a few rooms. Traversing these areas take time. Some of the hotspots and interactable items are hidden in massive parts of the map and don't come obviously to you, especially with camera cuts and stuff. You can be stuck in this place for a long time just because you haven't hit the right hotspot at the right time and therefore have no clue what you are meant to be doing, which basically means the theater can be extremely boring to play through. All you need to actually do is find a way to move this support strut so that the safe from above will fall through the ceiling of this room and smash open at your feet.
Oh, God!
That's one way to crack a safe.
You didn't say you were trying to crack my skull, too.
Just the usual slight miscalculation. You know me, Nico.
You wouldn't be you without it.
Inside the safe is some kind of artifact as well as a card key, and if you had been walking around the halls, as you will no doubtly be, you'll first find that one door has a goon safely hidden behind it, and then the other end of the hallway has a dead body and a sci-fi looking elevator. A good guess is that the card key goes to the elevator, so with George and Nico barely caring about the random dead body on the floor, they head down into the lower levels and find this.
My God! Bruno was right.
Oh, George! It's beautiful! Who could have built something like this?
More to the point, what's it for?
There's a bridge out to the center.
Let's go see.
Now, Broken Sword 1 never tried to add magic or any kind of mysticism into it. When we get to the smoking mirror, they blur the line a little with the ending cutscene that looks like Tezcatlipoca is about to rise once more. This game jumps straight into all sorts of magical happenings. Plus, the game also tried to make George kind of the chosen one. Take this barrier. Nico tries to put her hand into it, but it gets rejected. The stone inside it is there because no one can grab it. George, however, can just put his hand in and grab it. This is the first of many things in this game that tried to make out that George is somehow extremely important to history and the world itself. I don't really understand why they did that, but it's where they went with the story. Amazingly, this is the only game that goes down this route as well. Slight spoilers, but 4 and 5 return to a more down-to-earth and grounded type of storytelling. George for one game might be the chosen one, amongst other things that he ends up being, but he goes back to being a boring old patent lawyer that just kind of keeps walking into trouble very quickly, all the time, enough to have at least 2 more games and a third in the making. Now, I've said once, maybe twice, that you need to be saving your game because of crashes, and this, in my first playthrough on stream, was the one place where I had such bad crashes that I honestly didn't think I'd be able to finish the game. So make sure to save as often as you can, especially in this section here, to stop having to backtrack in the theater, but also having to deal with the cutscenes and so on. What happens now is that the cloaked figure down below finally notices that we're on top. They have lots of people running away from them, but to be fair, we never really see what is happening down there because Petra and Cesaro are on their way up the elevator. You need to climb down off the ledge and shimmy over before making a run for the elevator. My game crashed constantly on the run to the elevator, but the second time playing, I got no crashes at all. Again, story-wise though, this is all a bit of a mess. Who is the guy in the robe? Why are people running away from him? Why don't Cesaro and Petra care? Why, when he obviously knows George is there, is he not doing anything to make sure others know that George is there? Questions we'll never have answered, but by the time we're back at the top of the elevator, we'll have a throwback to the second game where we need to block the elevator to stop people from following us because that's the sensible thing to do. And after jamming the bottle opener we've had since the beginning of the game into the door, we're free to leave once more. Just as we're leaving, George is attacked by someone in black who steals the artifact but drops something else. Which again, just why? I get the random guy attacking us, but why would this guy just be walking around with an artifact of his own in his pockets? He seems to be there for George, and he also just seemed to know George would have the artifact on him. It's all a bit silly, but we wake up in Nico's apartment surrounded by the faces of Bruno, Nico, and of course Andre. How I have missed George and Andre. It is nice that they don't take even a second to get back to insulting each other, though the dynamic changes a little bit a little later on, which is nice. Right now, though, it is time to figure out what our next move will be. George has lost what they found in the theater, but they've gained something new that they don't know the meaning of. Mainly right now, we need Bruno to tell us more about the dragon cult.
Tell him about the dragon cult.
Ah, yes. The dragon cult was formed by Sosaro after death of Grand Master at St. Ninians. He pulled together remnants of Neo-Templars and made them into his own organization.
Sounds like he should be thanking you, not trying to kill you.
He continues the work started by Grand Master, using what they call dragon energy for his own purposes.
This power is about to peak.
It runs in cycles, each 12,000 years long. The current cycle is reaching its zenith. Susaro knows where is the Temple of the Dragon. It contains the means to enhance the power build-up. An extraordinary device known as the Armillary.
Bruno disagrees with Andre saying the Key of Solomon is the book, which to be fair, it is a book, so Andre isn't completely wrong. It just so happens to be the artifact that was also stolen from us, so that's great. We decide the best course of action is to head back to the Congo and properly check out the lab that Chinmondli was working in, just this time we'll take Nico with us. To make sure that Bruno is kept safe, we have him here in Nico's apartment, and we keep Andre with him, who never wanted to be a hero, so that can't go wrong at all, can it? Harry also just so happens to have stayed in the Congo. For whatever reason, he can't just get rid of this Jeep that he's stolen, so just stuck in the Congo for no reason being a taxi driver. He'll bring George and Nico to the doors of the lab, and it's time for us to get back in and see what we can find. What we do find is the underground gauntlet of puzzles, and what just so happens to be the best part of the game puzzle-wise. I'm not joking, this is it. It jumps deeply into the Indiana Jones hole and gives us some very interesting puzzles. Yes, there is still a block involved, but this time out, I'm not even too upset about it. I am kind of upset that Nico decides this is too dangerous after hanging on to guttering at the top of an apartment in Paris. That's why we need the blocks, but it's fine. The first room is a spike trap. You know it's dangerous because you have a handy dead body in the middle of the trap. George will make his way over and can block the traps with blocks before sticking something in the mechanism for Nico to safely cross over.
Come on, Nico! It should be safe to cross now!
You'd better be right, George!
Hurry, will ya?
Can't hold it much longer.
George?
The next room is my second favorite puzzle of the entire game. You have these buttons on the floor. Once stood on, you'll see the safe tiles light up. It's up to you with the help of Nico to get from one side of the room to the other without being killed by the roof collapsing on you. I like this kind of logic puzzle anyway, but I guess one reason it stands out so much in this game is that anything bar a box-pushing puzzle is so far and few between. It's nice when you have a puzzle that is devoid of boxes completely. In fact, it is devoid of any kind of reactionary movements as well, and it's just a puzzle for the sake of being a puzzle, which is what I played point and clicks for. Sadly, after this, it's just a puzzle of how to climb down this hole, and when you get to the bottom of it, we have one of the most tedious block-pushing puzzles in the entire game. I say that, but actually, they slowly get more and more tedious as time goes on, and not just because you're fed up of seeing them, but because they just become longer in general. This one has multiple layers that you have to move the boxes back and forth from to get the box on the top layer over to the moving platform to balance it out so you can move on. Just George obviously doesn't push these very fast, and you have to move the two lower boxes all over the place to get the third one over to the side. It is a well thought out puzzle, and if it wasn't for the box pushing fatigue setting in, it wouldn't be as bad as it felt. Doing this will get you into a chamber with a bit of a different puzzle again. This time, you have this machine here. George will stand at the podium, changing the direction of the energy beam in the middle of the floor. Whichever stone structure is in the line will be moved to the center, where you can change the direction they are facing. Your goal is to get all 4 pieces together, like a jigsaw kind of, so that a concentrated beam of light can be pointed into the next room, where you have to use the mirror trick to redirect the beam of light into this door to basically power it up. Whilst the stone moving is a little clunky, and on the slow side for obvious reasons, it all just kind of comes together nicely with the mirrors, and I do love a good mirror puzzle. It is one of the reasons I really enjoyed the Talos principle, and again, in a game devoid of much other than pushing boxes, it is always a joy to have to use your brain in a different way to think outside of the box, pushing, and get busy with different types of puzzles. With the light beam powering it, you could get Nico to help you press the 2 buttons on these consoles and open the door into another chamber.
1. Now! You know, on our day, we're pretty damn good, Nico.
Unbeatable, George.
You have the metal plate to open this door, but currently the metal plate won't stay in place. You might think this is going to be a complicated job of getting the door to stay open, but actually it is as simple as asking Nico to just hold the metal plate in place whilst George goes into the next room on his own.
Hey, Nico, take this scarf. You can use it to hold the metal plate over that panel.
And what will you do?
I'll go through the door and check it out.
There you go, George. Hurry!
Sometimes you just have to have a second pair of hands. We don't even need Nico in the next room because, like in Paris, we find ourselves in a similar chamber with a similar beam of light and a similar stone inside it. George, being the chosen one for whatever reason, can grab the stone and we can start to leave, just to be cornered once more by Petra. Petra, as I've already said, is by far the biggest threat in the game, but the amount of times her gun will jam or something silly will happen to stop her is laughable. She's basically the only threat because she's the only one that gets sent after us, and does indeed have the ability to kill us at any second if she truly wanted to, if only that pesky gun would work. That being said, it is funny that in the face of a gun, George will just be sassy at people.
Don't play games, Stobart. I know you've got it. You stole it from the safe.
Oh, the Key of Solomon.
Why didn't you say?
Give it to me.
We'd love to.
But...
we don't actually have the key here with us. We left it back home.
So, you haven't got it?
No.
It isn't far off how he is in other games, so that isn't a criticism. It is just nice to see that George never changes. Face to face with death, and his need to be an annoying prick just intensifies. I can get behind that. For this though, the timing after the small cutscene is tight. You need to quickly start running, else Petra will kill you. This is both straight after the original cutscene, but also this small cutscene where the fool falls away as well. Again, you just start from the beginning of the scene if you do fail, so it isn't the worst thing, but you do need to be fast here.
We have to move fast.
With another escape under your belt thanks to Harry and his jeep, you'll be back in Paris to find out that Nico's apartment has been ransacked and Bruno has been kidnapped. Surprise, surprise. We also have the police officer back here as well, and I love that Nico just throws a bunch of insults his way when she stood right next to him and he doesn't react to any of it.
He's been on the phone ever since.
Who is he anyway?
He's a pig, that's who he is. A cretin. An idiot. A smooth-faced, wooden-headed...
Ah, the cop who locked you up. I have to hand it to him. He must have guts.
And just what does that mean?
We learn that he is off the case, but that he fears for Nico's life as her file was stolen from his desk. Nico obviously doesn't trust him, so doesn't give him much to go on, and I feel this is just another hang-up from the first 2 games. Whilst they had wide worlds, the cast were nice and cozy. It is like the police officer is trying to replace the hole that people like Russell had in the first game, but he isn't given a personality, and he's not there enough either. Therefore, he just kind of shows up twice, I guess. In a moment, there's another character returns as well for no real reason, and I'll have more to say about this in a minute when she does show up. He leaves to look up Cesaro, never to be seen again, and that's the only thing he knows as well, is that he's called Cesaro, so whether he was going to look it up or not, I don't know. As he leaves, there's a knock on the door and Beatrice joins us. This is kind of when the plans start to come together. Beatrice doesn't really have any insight into what is happening, but she can fill in context clues to Vernon and who he was. But mainly right now, she's here to change the dynamic completely between George and Andre, because of course Andre is now in love with the big titty goth that just walked in. Who wouldn't be?
Who's this gorgeous creature, George?
Who dug her up, you mean?
What?
Oh, nothing. You've never met her?
Never had the pleasure.
She also doesn't necessarily instantly like him, but she is taken aback by how heroic he must have been after the attack and all that, even though we know Andre probably wasn't very heroic at all. Beatrice gets the lowdown on the dragon cult and why Vernon was killed. This is more for us than anything else because the game rushes through information so fast, they have to constantly remind us what is going on. With no real clues as to where to go next, Nico decides she'll go check the room with the goon in it in the theater, believing him to be gone, and then sends the rest of them to move their bases to Vernon's flat. Why, I don't know. You'd think with him being dead and all, people wouldn't be allowed in there anymore, unless he owned it. Beatrice does say it's her place, but she also earlier said Vernon was stopping her from coming over to visit, so it doesn't sound like she did live there. Like, she literally left a voicemail for him because she wasn't there. I could have missed something, but either way, it's just a way to move out of Nico's apartment. We do know we have to go to Prague, though, so she makes George book tickets while she tries to figure out where in Prague they need to go. This is simple enough at this point. You should know what room you're looking for from running around earlier. When you do get into the room, Flap will attack you, but one cutscene later and he's on the floor again.
Struggling. That just makes it worse.
Take that!
Not again!
This should keep you out of my way.
All you have to do when in this room is search every hotspot. You basically just need to pinpoint where it is in Prague they're going, so as soon as you found all the clues in the room, you'll automatically be taken to a cutscene of Nico and George in a car, slowly breaking down in front of a mansion that I think they call a castle at least once in Prague. Now, if I had one complaint about the Gauntlet area, is that everything was done with George. It would have been nice if each room changed between George and Nico, figuring it out based on their strengths as people. It is the only negative other than the box pushing still being there. This area does do that. Whilst you start with the two together, Prague will split them up for big chunks of it. And whilst George does a lot of very physical activities, Nico will be using her brain more to infiltrate the mansion. That being said, Prague is also my absolute least favourite area. It isn't my least favourite part, but it is the place I always think about when deciding whether I want to play the game again, and is one of the main reasons I tend to say no. It is huge, and a lot of the open spaces are pointless. I do get what they were going for. It is a mansion, it should be huge. All it does is make things longer for you, and it makes it easier for you to get lost. Before all that, though, you need to get in, and this is where it introduces its stealth mechanics, and I'll say they nearly did this well. George does have a sneak, that is the stealth mechanic. You can tiptoe around things. It doesn't make any sense, but at least it's a mechanic in-game to say, hey, now you're being sneaky so people find it harder to see you. Just those people are usually staring right in your direction in well-lit areas, or at least in a position where they should be able to see you, and they just can't. It isn't badly done, or maybe it is badly done, but it's hard to figure out where you are in sightline of these guards and the dogs. I give them a lot of credit, not just for trying, but giving the sneak option as well to help you along. They thought about it, and with how they designed the game to be like a movie, it makes sense that they didn't put any kind of over-the-top markers on the screen to ruin the experience. At the gate, you need to use Nico to distract the guard as George sneaks in. He'll sneak around the edges of this area, then using a box puzzle, because of course it is, he'll get over to the big car park with the helicopter landing pad in it. Here, he'll need to open the gates to let Nico in, at all times keeping away from the guards and checking hotspots just in case they have items you'll need in them. When Nico is in with you, you then need to move this jeep up against the wall to get up here. George will then use the drain pipe to get higher, breaking it, and leaving Nico stranded. We'll now be in charge of Nico again, who can't join George, so goes back down, picking up the bracket that he dropped on the way down as well.
Jeez, only just made it. You were right!
Of course! I'm not stupid!
You're gonna have to find another way in if you can.
Okay, George.
You'll then use this other car, climbing up to it and break into this window, which, to be fair, is a better idea than anything George has had so far. Like, he's just gone up, she's now in the building. Again, we're using her natural intelligence and George's idiot bravado to good use to split them up. For Nico, the only task right now is to make herself look like Petra. After all, if Petra can make herself look like Nico, then Nico can make herself look like Petra. You still have the short bob wig, and thankfully Petra also has the short hair herself, so all you have to do is bleach it blonde. Again, the mansion itself is huge. You have guards that will shoot you on sight, so what you need to do is get to Petra's room, or the kitchen. You need to properly look through Petra's room first and open a secret apartment in her luggage to get a grindstone to distract the chef in the kitchen so that you can steal his bleach. The chef in the kitchen being the human Shrek, apparently.
Hey, you! What the hell do you think you're doing?
I needed to clean the toilets.
Not with my bleach, you don't. Go and get your own bottle. I'm sick of people nicking my stuff.
Okay. Sorry.
When you have what you need, you can go back to Petra's room and easily bleach the wig in an instant, which will hopefully allow you to walk around freely, but we shall see, because first we're back with George to see how he'll be getting down into the mansion. So far, all he's done is go up. You have to find either a way down or a way in. George will destroy everything around him to get to the new courtyard. And still, no one notices. In the new courtyard, the only way to go is down this grate, but of course you can't get through, and this is another quibble. Broken Sword has never been a pixel hunty game. It has its moments, and sometimes they are unintentional. I mentioned watching a colorblind streamer playing Shadows of the Templar for the first time, and just not being able to see the red nose. That for me stands out so perfectly, but for him was impossible to see. On the whole though, it was pretty simple to see what you need to interact with in both games. I wouldn't say it was harder on purpose in this game, and they do have the hotspot detector as automatic as well. It's just easy to walk past things that don't stand out because everything is a 3D model and nothing stands out. In this case, you need to get oil out of a lamp, but you can easily miss that because you wouldn't think of going to the lamp. Not only this, but the game does have a lot of things you can look at, which can also get tiring and make you skip things that look like you'll just get a voice line from it. Again, it isn't really pixel hunting, and it isn't really doing any different from the 2D games. Hovering over items in the 2D games has your reactive cursor show up that you can pick things up, and once the buttons do change, you need to be standing close enough for the hotspot and the action bar to pop off. If you don't stand exactly where you need to be, you'll just walk past it and never see it. Either way, you'll fall down the grate hoping for the best, as George tends to. Nico's turn, and she does actually pass as Petra, which is wild, but again, the rule of cool. She'll overcompensate on being angry and mean.
Any news?
It's been pretty quiet.
What about an attack from inside?
Everything is battened down tight.
Good. Now, would you care to explain why you are reading on duty?
Just trying to improve myself, ma'am.
Do it again, and the next book you buy will be in Braille.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am.
I've seen men play Broken Sword. I'm very aware that men like this though, so Nick was just playing to her audience. There aren't too many people to talk to, but if you talk to the guards in the front of the hallway, they'll let you know that Bruno has been taken to the office in the lower levels. We can't get there without our card key, and there is a lady in a side room that can give us the card key, but we need to find one to give it to her in the first place, to give us the permissions. Again, one of the reasons why Prague is something that stops me wanting to play again is because the area is just massive and boring. You can actually go and explore quite a lot of the area when you've turned yourself into Petra, but it is just kind of boring to do so. Made even worse that when you get to the go downstairs, you're in more winding corridors that do look slightly different from all the other corridors you've been through, but aren't even the last set of underground tunnels you'll be running through in this game. Nico stops in place when she hears someone coming, and we head over to George. George landed in some dirty laundry and just needs to escape the laundry room, which apparently is both underground and blocked. I don't know why, but it is. To make sure Prague doesn't drag as much as it does to play through, George hasn't been just sitting around and waiting. These parts have been playing together, so when George gets into familiar-looking corridors, we do find out who Nico heard coming.
Take that, you!
Oh! Why you?
George?
Who?
It's me, Nico.
Jeez, I thought you were Petra.
Often sneak up on girls like that, do you?
Only blondes.
So it's true. They do have more fun.
Hang on to the wig and find out.
Trailer trash chic. Not really my style.
Ouch. So how come you're down here?
Did you notice the extra security? I'm guessing that Bruno must be close.
So what are we waiting for?
This must have been so cathartic for Nico to finally hit George non-lethally for all the stuff he's done to her. Okay, that makes it sound like he was horrible. He wasn't that bad, but he is annoying. Everyone wants to hit him. Now we're together again. We'll walk into a locker room and get even George a change of clothes. We now just look like Petra and another one of the guards, and there isn't really too much of a point to this. You can't get into the office, so you just walk around the side and find a vent to talk to Bruno, who is rather lively for a man telling us all about the torture he's gone through.
Are you okay?
Oh, sure. I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I'm in constant pain. I've had more electricity through me than a small town in winter. But heck, now you're here, who gives a damn?
You're so brave.
Lady, I grew up in Eastern Europe. We did torture in kindergarten.
As Bruno is yapping to us, Cesaro will return, letting us know that the real Petra is on her way. This is the most James Bond villain-esque scene we'll get. It also, again, is kinda weird in how they've written it. Broken Sword has always mixed drama and comedy, but this game doesn't balance that well at all. For a man being tortured, Bruno gets to sit and quip away with his witty one-liners as Cesaro, Petra, and Flap have a conversation. Not only that, from the first game, Bruno didn't come away as someone who wanted to be witty and silly. I won't say I hate it, because I do love Bruno in this game. He ended up being my favorite part of the third game, but it does give a really weird feeling to moments like this. Like, instead of James Bond, we got Johnny English instead. With the help of a scarf that Flap is wearing, Cesaro announces they are off to the armillery and then take Bruno and leave. We can then head over to the office ourselves and figure out that the armillery is in Egypt, but where in Egypt we don't know, so we head back to our headquarters. Nico was confused to see Andre there, but this is where the whole dynamic of the group changes. Andre is obviously here because Beatrice is, though he's also there because he is, after all, part of the team, and has been since the first time they came face-to-face with the Templars in the first game. Nico isn't happy to see him, but in a weird twist of fate, when he offers to give a story about the Templars, it is George that wants to hear it and Nico that doesn't.
It involves the founding of the chapter.
We don't have time for tales, Andre.
Listen, Nico, if there's one thing I've come to realize, it's that you can't have too much information. Carry on, Andre.
Thank you, George.
Andre would tell us the old story of a young knight called Stefan, who had to transport an artifact to the Baron Tori's Preceptory. I couldn't say any of those words. Baron Tori's Preceptory. He was hunted every step of the way, and when he finally gave the artifact to the person in charge, he died. Thus, the sect named themselves to the Saint Stephen movement, I guess, and they moved themselves to Paris. George decides that he'll head to the one place he knew that Templars were once based in, our favorite returning area, Mount Fashon, and then we get a look at how Nico is now kind of jealous of Andre. Knowing that George is off to find a Templar stronghold, instead of going, Nico decides to stay and third wheel Andre and Beatrice to try to figure out where the armillery is in Egypt. It is a funny change of fate for the trio, but it is also the last time we see Andre in the series so far, and it is nice that even though this is the one time what he does is questionable, he again isn't actually that weird about it, and never outwardly weird with Beatrice. It just kind of is weird timing for him to find the love of his life just after her partner was shot, and then to be with her in the dead person's apartment. With us once again separated, George will head back to one of his favorite places. Sadly, the cafe is closed, so no drunk Gardamon, but we do have the builder. You know, the one that we met right at the beginning of the Broken Sword Shadow of the Templars game.
It was the same guy I'd met years ago at the bombed-out cafe. Of course, back then I was still in Fighting Evil Conspiracies Junior League.
He used the money he won from the horses to make his own business, to do exactly what he was doing to begin with. He'll tell us that he has one worker, but his work has been diagnosed as being scared of the earthquakes that the world has been suffering through right now because of the Templars. Well, he doesn't say about the Templars, but we know it's because of them. So he's actually just sat in the van doing nothing, meaning this guy is still working for a living. You can distract him to get the sewer key, a great nod to the first game, but it doesn't work, so you need to find another way to get rid of the sewer cover. Again, I do like coming back to old characters, and this is for sure a more natural reunion than some of them in this game. After all, I don't think the original cafe was that far from Mount Fashon, but either way, he is just a builder in the Paris area, so why not reuse that same character and make the world feel that little bit smaller, but that little bit better by having someone we loved in the past come back. Also, the game, again, does make George self-aware, which I like.
Done it again, you
While the workman was looking the other way, I borrowed his sewer key. Funny, every time I get involved in saving the world, I turn into a kleptomaniac.
So this lady is back. Much like the police officer, I think this game wanted to reuse some models. I don't know how far away this street is from the apartments, but her job is to look after this pissoir, and she hates the builder because, and I'll let her explain it.
Have you met that road worker over there?
Bah! That dog comes over here willy-nilly taking advantage of my facilities.
Isn't that what your facilities are for?
Yes, sir. But not with such enjoyment.
What do you mean, enjoyment?
He whistles, he sighs, he spits, and he jiggles.
Jiggles, huh?
Jiggles. He has no shame.
That's a problem.
It's a national disgrace.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, it's a urinal, not a cathedral.
Bah! Men, you are all the same. And when you are not jiggling, you are watching football. Go!
This wasn't going to be easy. The lady clearly needed years of Jungian analysis, and I didn't have time to wait.
There isn't much wrong with them reusing the models, and I guess she's as good as anyone to be there, but it's just kind of funny. It does the opposite of a returning character like the builders showing up and just feels a little lazy, but it can't be helped. Kind of funny I'm praising them for bringing back the builder from the first game and then saying they're reusing assets for this one. I guess they did have to remake the builder into a 3D model anyway, but like it makes the world feel weird that she's just there. They could have made one more person for that job. Is the difference between having a wide cast in the first game to just needing to fill puzzle spaces in this game. You need a distractor long enough to be able to get up on the scaffolding again, because scaffolding is the easiest thing in a city to have you jump on, and take some rope. The reason you need that rope is to tie it to the key, to the van, and then scare the builder and have him drive off, and yeah.
Earthquake!
Funnily enough, the builder finds it funny, because it is kind of funny. He doesn't mind how much he has to pay for what happened, because it's just funny, and I don't think he likes his worker much. What this does, though, is bring back the terror of Sewer Jacques. This is where the game kind of loses me just a tiny bit. You see, the wall that we broke into the first game is re-bricked up. Fair enough. I don't necessarily believe that the Paris Council or whatever is coming down here to brick up broken walls, but I'll buy that. What I don't buy is that in the first game, we just missed this not at all obvious secret door just around the corner, or that others who came down here haven't noticed it either, or that the small period of time between the two games means that any of what we're about to see could be built. Why? Because in the first game, the Neo-Templars were meeting in this cave. It seems the only significance was that it had the little area where you had to put the tripod and the crystal down to find out where to go. Now, there is an entire sect of Templars living down here, a very well-maintained tunnel system, a secret base, and it all leads off into an actual chapel. It's just a bit much, and would have probably been better off being just anywhere else, but it just kind of feels like a weird development in an area that it just kind of shouldn't have been in. I just don't believe anyone, not even the Templars, would be able to, in the modern day, build this under Paris without anyone finding out, and in the time they had within the last few years. Either way, what you do is you follow the blood trail. You'll need to lock up some guards and sneak past people in the base, but you need to follow the blood, basically. Why this blood trail has been left, I don't know. Why no one else is following it? Couldn't tell you. Can't tell you. But you will, and you'll follow it all the way up to this wine bottle puzzle. I don't know the trick of the wine bottle puzzle. I don't even know how to solve it to this day. I just look up guides at this point. I'm not sure it even tells you in-game, or if it does, I always miss it. But you basically have to pour them in the right order, and when you've poured these bottles in the right order, another secret door will open, and you can go inside. There, you'll find the guy who stole the key of Solomon from us earlier. He'll die as we meet him, and we then get to the single worst part of the game. In fact, whilst I dislike Prague a whole bunch, I have to admit that this entire section highlights all of the weaknesses of Broken Sword the Sleeping Dragon. You have the wide open corridors snaking around that you have to run through, which are understandable, but also just boring. A lot of this area is also massive and just pointless. It's just there to make it look big. You have one of the only non-box pushing puzzles, and it was badly explained and not interesting either in the wine bottles. It is way too long of an area with very little character to it or anything of interest to keep you engaged. Then you get to the worst stealth part in the entire game. Again, I do not fault them. They tried something different, and they did give you some of the tools you need, but this chapel section is awful. You only really have this one guard to worry about. There is another guy to stop you from just being able to sneak into the back of the room and going around, but you have to make this sneak multiple times. First to get into the office, then when you're in the office, you need a Bible, so you sneak back out to the pulpit for the Bible that you've seen there. Then when you found what you need in the Bible, you have to sneak back to the office. It isn't hard per se, but the line of sight on this guy is wonky as hell. You can do the same thing multiple times and each time come out with a different outcome. A guard here has a short loop walking in a circle around the very front of the stage. You have the pulpit you can duck into, this screen to hide behind, and as long as you're on the other side of the room, I think you could just make a run for the door. With absolutely no idea what the sightline is on the guard, you can't really tell where is safe and where isn't. This can take me forever to do, or it can take just moments. There is no in-between with this section. In a way, you do need to take a page out of George's books and just be overly confident that they won't see you and wish for the best. When you are finally done, you'll open another secret tunnel, and this leads us to the leader of the St. Stephen sect. I'll let him do the talking.
The chapter of St. Stephen?
Very good. Your deductions brought you here, as we knew they would.
My deductions also tell me you've got the key of Solomon.
We did have it, briefly, but alas, it has been taken again.
Cesaro.
He attacked swiftly and with overwhelming force. My men fought bravely, but it was not enough. A few of us retreated here to hide. A few miserable survivors.
Why is the key so important?
You know of the armillary?
Some?
Cesaro has set the armillary in motion. He will use the key to release the dragon energy in an enormous burst, which he will then harness to fulfill his own desires.
So where's the armillary? Surely all we have to do is go there and turn the damn thing off.
The whereabouts of the armillary have been long forgotten. 3 ancient stones hold the secret to its location.
Don't tell me. You lost them too?
We have 1 stone.
Show me. Bingo. I do believe we've got the other 2.
It is said that the 3 stones are linked. With the stones there is a chance.
What can I do to help?
We will send our best knight, chivalrous, tenacious, and unswerving in his determination to fight evil.
Well, whoever this guy is, he's gonna need a hand.
That is for him to decide.
The one thing the Sleeping Dragon does that no other game does is make George the Chosen One. I've mentioned it before. You can already reach into the light shield that Nico can't and collect the stones. Now he's the greatest knight of the Templars, even though he has nothing to do with the Templars, other than ruining the Neo-Templars' plans once. But now we're knighted, and this isn't even the worst of it. That is still to come. I'm also sure everyone in Idaho is going to be so happy to hear that George's ego is now the size of Idaho as well. Maybe even 2 Idahos. With us now knighted, we head back to Paris to tell everyone what we have just had happen to us. We are now a knight, but most importantly is that Cesaro has the key and everything he needs to tap into the dragon lines and control its power. Nico still hasn't figured out exactly where the armillary is, but they have figured out roughly where. If you use the items in your inventory on the computer screen, George will just about figure out where they are going, and it is time to head to Egypt ourselves.
They seem
When we get there, we're obviously met with guards, so we need to get around them and find our way in. I'll talk about why that is weird in a minute. First up though, the biggest thing is that Nico sneaks around, causing a bunch of chaos before George kinda easily gets through as well. It isn't a hard sneaking puzzle, even with Nico having caused a ruckus. You just kinda have to keep as far away from the side as you can, and take your time sneaking around. It really won't take that long. Then we are here, at the back door. The back door leads us to two puzzles, which are actually pretty decent, but if this is the actual way in, then again, why is there an easier way in the back? This must be the way you were meant to go in, so this is meant to be the front door, because it's where the guardian that tries to block your path is. But Cesaro and the rest are just very easily able to wander in from the front, which I guess is actually the back. The layout just doesn't work. When we do get in, we get a cutscene of Bruno being forced to power up the machine, which he obviously does not want to do, but he does do it. And it's a decent scene, to be honest. Everything with Bruno right now is kinda well done. This small area in Egypt is actually decently done in general, and the only problems really being George and Nico and their interactions.
Tell me that wasn't the entrance ceiling behind us.
But Nico, it was.
Just tell me.
Hey, lucky that wasn't the entrance ceiling behind us, or we could be entombed here for eternity.
Thanks, George. By the way, have you got the torch?
The flashlight? No, I thought you had it.
No, we swapped on the plane.
But then we swapped again in the truck.
Aha, but we swapped again on the walk.
Nico?
You're right. Let's just feel our way around.
Hey, what's this? Feels nice.
George.
Right, sorry.
We'll come face to face with a hologram of Anubis, and both Nico and George are completely unfazed by this. I'm not against them not being super reactive to things, but this is a huge step up from what the first two games have had, and they come face to face with an ancient hologram and just don't care. Every supernatural part of this game just has no reaction to it, which is weird because other than the god in the second game, Broken Sword has never really been that supernatural. Our first challenge is just to open this door, which you do easily with the stones that George has been collecting. See, the chosen one gets to open the door. The second room has one of those move those things across the river without anyone dying puzzles, which I love, and this is why this is my favorite puzzle in the game. These puzzles are a staple of point-and-click games, and are usually pretty simple, but can also be a bit confusing. This one isn't too bad because it only has 3 people to move, so as long as you slowly think of the logic to it, you'll get it right away. Again, it is kinda slow because Horace does need to move back and forth on the board, but I really liked it as a puzzle, especially in a game that always went back to box pushing for the majority of its puzzle crafting. With Anubis outsmarted, George and Nico tried to sneak into the main chamber with Cesaro and Flapper. Sadly, the door will close behind us, giving us away, and we have another QTE section we need to go through. It will end up with Nico riding Cesaro like... You know what, actually, there has been too much Nico fan service in this video. She just does that, and then George punches him out. After a quick talk to Bruno, the game has another twist. Petra turns on Cesaro. Why? Well, it turns out this guy in the robes is actually the Grand Master, the one we left to die in the church in Scotland at the end of the first game. Petra found him and nursed him back from the brink of death, which is one of the reasons she's wanted to kill Nico and George this entire time. So it makes sense why she had that big speech at the beginning of the game. Instead of killing us though, she'll shoot Cesaro, and then the Grandmaster will leave us with as much of a chance that we left him with years before in Scotland.
Oh, I'm a reasonable man. I'll give you all the same chance George and Nico gave me when we last met.
If anybody tries to follow us, I'll kill them in a heartbeat.
What did he mean? The same chance we gave him? We didn't give him any chance at all.
Exactly.
Which basically just means another giant box puzzle after they blow up the cave to stop you joining us in what was a very good throwback to us blowing up the church in Scotland. Again, it's just long and uninteresting. They relied heavily on this mechanic, which I guess was the easiest way to implement the 3D aspect of the game, but it just meant that most of the game is forgettable. Not only that, but all of these cutscenes are meant to be super dramatic, but end up with George and Nico throwing one-liners and weird looks at each other. It isn't bad, but again, it stops the dramatic moments like this feeling actually dramatic. It took away some of the danger because the main characters weren't taking it seriously at all, so why are we as the audience taking it seriously? When you finally leave, there is the most dramatic and sad cutscene in the game though, so you can kind of forgive the one beforehand because this one is sad. You can't leave because the door's shut behind you in Anubis's lair and puzzles, but George realizes that if he sacrifices himself by cheating on the boat crossing puzzle, then the others might be able to escape. Whilst Tim and Nico are arguing, Bruno takes matters into his own hands.
Maybe, but we won't find it quickly and we don't have time. Right now, the Grand Master is heading for Glastonbury. You know what'll happen if we don't stop him?
For the love of God, George, you can't do this.
Don't make it more difficult for me, please, Nico.
Hold on. Where's Bruno? Bruno!
Bruno, what are you doing?
Exactly as you were, George, but without the bickering.
Nobody needs to sacrifice themselves.
Much responsibility for what has happened lies with me. I helped the Grand Master in his quest for power. I am not really ready for death, but perhaps I am ready for redemption.
No! We won't let you!
I hope you are more effectual against the Grand Master.
You have defiled this temple.
Yes, I have.
It's only a recording.
George.
You will suffer the wrath of Anubis for your insolence.
Let my friends go. They had no part of it.
And you shall be cast out, never to enter the sacred place again.
Yeah? We're not going without him.
If you do not go, George, it will kill all of us. You must leave.
Leave or die.
I can't. I can't just...
Leave or die.
It's too late, George!
If you die, then this really has all been for nothing, Stobart!
I know, I just...
Stop the Grand Master!
Goodbye, Bruno. I know. We've got to go. Just give me a minute, okay?
Now, Bruno didn't make a giant impact in the first game. His personality does shift greatly from the very stoic and introverted personality he exhibits in the little bits we see of him in the first game to this game. That being said, he is a decent enough character to spend time with, and George genuinely seems to get on with him, so when he sacrifices himself, whilst we haven't had a lot of time with him, or bonded too much with him through the 2 games he's been in, I cried. I found this really sad to begin with. Bruno is an underrated character, and I don't know how in a game that was so badly written, as this game kind of is, they managed to make me care so much, but this one cutscene just genuinely broke my heart. It would have been nice if George being dragged away wasn't muted, like you don't hear anything in that scene, but it works, and it was by far the most dramatic cutscene they have in the entire game. Or I mean, I guess dramatic is in emotional, there's more drama to come.
Just give me a minute, okay?
With us escaping, we'll be back in a plane with Harry, kind of crash landing in Glastonbury, which is where the Grand Master was going and where the Dragon Lines will grant him his power. Glastonbury is underwater, which I guess is pretty normal for the UK anyway. From the little I know of Glastonbury, you know, the music festival, I guess that's kind of just to be expected. No one seems to care, though. The Colonel comes out from the pub to greet us, asks us if we want a pint before taking Harry inside and introducing him to his daughter.
Colonial! Say hello to Melissa.
As much as I wanted to join the area when she makes his friends for a beer, I knew I had a job to do.
Harry. Tell me, dear boy, are you married? I'm not, but I'm open to offers. Good show.
Come on, Nico. We have to stop the Grand Master.
We then have, you guessed it, another box puzzle to get behind a wall I'm sure we could have probably found a way past anyway, just in time to run into Petra. We'll leave Nico to fight with Petra as we come face to face with this.
To me, I am here, your servant.
For God's sake, stop! This is madness!
The energy of the dragon is upon us. I can see everything, all of history, all creation, the future.
You're gonna kill us all!
With the power, I shall live forever. Yes! Yes!
Oh, shoot.
What's happening? No!
So this is the silliest thing, and this is where the Chosen One thing becomes a bit dumb. This could have even worked in the first two games because it was about proving that myths and legends were real, but in this game it just is another step in the really funny random Chosen One.
The bomb's broken through into the
George
river
that
puzzle
right now
room.
is just
We can get out
kinda
this way.
silly. I think I've said the
Nico,
same words
come
a
on,
couple
we gotta
times.
hurry.
This bit just makes my head hurt.
Just
yes,
a minute,
George
George.
has found King
Look at the
Arthur's
sphere.
final resting place in Glastonbury Tor. And yes,
The lines
George
converge
takes
in
the
the
sword
south
from
of
the
England.
stone and
Where
becomes the
could
King
that
of
be?
England.
Glastonbury!
Kinda, I guess. Mainly, he's just taking the sword to fight the dragon like a true King of
Of
England
course.
would.
The Tor must be the epicenter.
We knew where we were heading next. All we had to do was get out of the temple.
Do not get me wrong, I enjoyed the story of Broken Sword and Sleeping Dragon, but it wasn't the part of what came before and even what comes after. It is the one game that goes heavily into actual comedy instead of having some moments to elevate the drama around it. Broken Sword's cast usually are witty, sarcastic and dry, but in this everyone has a one-liner at any given moment. And then the addition of so much supernatural stuff and mystical stuff just made the game feeling kinda silly in itself. It is also the first game that actually has a final boss fight, in that we have a puzzle to get to slay a dragon. We think the dragon has eaten Nico, so we need to make our way towards it with a sword to attack. Just the dragon is constantly breathing fire in our general direction, and we need to zigzag and use the cover to get close enough. It isn't done well, it's very janky like the rest of the game is, but it is decently enough done that, like everything, it just doesn't ruin anything in the game either. With you finally up to the dragon, you'll get your end cutscene.
You know, after a show like that, you are going to be one major pain in the ass.
Nico! I thought you were dead.
Can you still not tell a wig from the real thing?
But I saw the dragon kill you.
Not me. Petra. She knocked me out. I've only just come round.
So, where did she go?
Looks like she just disappeared.
Huh?
What are you doing?
Watch.
Oh. I thought...
A hand was going to come out of the water and catch the sword?
Yeah.
Get real, George.
I guess... it's over then.
Congratulations, you have completed yet another Broken Sword game, and no, George is not the King of England, thankfully. This game wasn't as bad as people make it out to be, though. It is the weird one of the family. It has the Chosen One story going through it. It's much more supernatural and relies heavily on more in-your-face humor than the original two, and even the next two do. Maybe it was trying to find a new audience, tapping into the 3D market that was home to some serious gaming, but also wacky and goofy characters. Point and clicks very often were comedic or fantastical, and Broken Sword kind of broke that mold a little with the first two games being much more of a mystery game. This isn't to say it was the first game to do that, plenty of point and clicks had done that beforehand, but it did what it did extremely well. With more than 50% of the game feeling like it was running through a corridor, pushing a box, it lost the well-crafted feeling of the first two games. The story started to get more disjointed and nothing felt as natural. Broken Sword is always meant to be like playing a movie, and whilst this did still feel like playing a movie, it felt like the genre of movie changed dramatically, so I can see why fans of the first two games weren't too sure of it. On the other hand, with the characters being well established and therefore the game never really giving more than it needed to, so that it can fit in one or two more boxes to push, new fans coming in were never going to be given much in the way of connection to the story or characters to care for either. It did a good job of dropping in some random faces from the past, but it's the only game to be marked down by me for failing to have Pearl and Dwayne show up. You know, the most important characters in the entire series. I love the nods to people like Lady P, and whilst I find it weird they brought back and gave a dominant role to Bruno, I guess he was a Neo-Templar, so it makes sense in some ways as well. George continued to be George, but Nico's personality kind of changed, and it continues to change in the next couple games too. We didn't necessarily get any iconic George moments, but we also weren't lacking in great interactions with characters either. That being said, no one introduced in this game ever come back. None of them really stuck out, and whilst they are fine for this one game, like most of the third game, it's just kind of forgettable. This is also the first time that the actual voice acting was bad. Not bad as in the worst thing you could imagine, just hokey and silly. All of the French accents just sounded like they were out of LOLO. No character felt like they really took anything too seriously. The police officer sounded like he was just waking up. It was weird in a game that usually had top-class voice acting, just really bad sound balancing. Did it at least make the transition to 3D well? Yes and no. It looks good, but not amazing. The models were really well done, and movement was fine. It was janky, but as a first go, you can't really complain. They did enough and gave you the tools you always needed. There was never a moment you felt unprepared, but a lot of the time you knew what was coming was going to be tedious. Hotspots were wonky, and they really needed the hotspots always being on because the 3D modeling and just how much they put into the world meant that for the first time, you might need to actually really hunt for whatever it is you're looking for. My biggest complaint about the move to 3D is that they just didn't know how to use it. You will now be fed up of me mentioning the box pushing, but it really did seem like the only thing they knew how to do in this new 3D environment was to push boxes. It was like they figured out that it was a fun way to use George now being able to move around and compensated everything with more and more boxes. Having reactionary movement was fun though. It gave the game some great moments and was used really well. Overall, if you ask me about the Sleeping Dragon, I would always say it was middling. It tried something new, and I give it credit for that, but everything it did just well enough that the game was enjoyable. Or in other words, it did enough that I enjoyed playing it, but not enough for me to ever want to tell someone else to play it. What it still did right was the art style and music. It still had the great musical moments the first two games had, and while some parts of the art design were dodgy, like the skybox and backgrounds in Glastonbury, and of course we had a lot of long corridors to live with, it all looked lovely. It was nice to run around Nico's apartment or Mount Fashon and seeing different views we never got to see before. The models on all characters were really well made, and they looked lively and interesting. It was a fun experience to be in, but not always the most fun it could be to play. Overall, it did enough to feel like it was a Broken Sword game without doing anything to stand out. And to answer the question I posed at the beginning, no, this is not the downfall of Broken Sword. I think people over-exaggerate the bad in Broken Sword because overall, other than the crashes and the fact it is forgettable, it did a good job for a new venture into the 3D world. They did look like they were trying to bring Broken Sword to a new fan base. It just wasn't the genre people were looking for, and it didn't do enough for the fans of the other genres to win them over either. In my opinion, there is only one bad Broken Sword game, and in the next month or so, we'll be talking about it. This might be the end of me getting to tell you about Broken Sword the Sleeping Dragon, but the next installment might be the nightmare you are all waiting for. Thank you as always for sitting through this video though, and watching me talk about one of my favourite series. If you'd like to support me further, then please find links to everywhere on the internet that I am in my description below, including my Twitch, Discord, and Patreon. Broken Sword won't be the next video, as of writing the script and recording it, I don't actually know what it will be, but till next time, thank you as always for watching, and bye-bye.